We now bring you the saga of Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, whose state is exploding with COVID. Now, you'd think this would be a code red situation for the governor. Instead, DeSantis rung in the new year championing his free state of Florida mantra, a mantra that has enabled one of the most permissive atmospheres in the country for business and individuals with few restrictions. He even refused to say whether or not he received the booster shot when asked by a buddy at Fox News.
Have you gotten the booster?
So I've done whatever I did, the normal shot, and that at the end of the day is people's individual decisions about what they want to do.
DeSantis saw an opportunity and snatched it, knowing some businesses didn't like those pesky lockdowns, and that nothing, not even a life-threatening airborne virus, would keep spring breakers from partying like it's 2019. It's a broad approach to herd immunity, which opened the door to a treatment over prevention approach that plays with people's lives. He boosts monoclonal antibodies, a treatment one of his top donors just happens to have invested millions of dollars in, which also happens to be ineffective against Omicron. But freedom, right? Down to the freedom for 62,000 Floridians to die of COVID-19. But this saga doesn't end there, because in December, as Florida shattered COVID records, its leader, DeSantis, vanished. Poof! Nowhere to be found. Not even on Fox News. Not even in Cancun. Speculations tore through Twitter by folks that may or may not have included me. But I can assure you, DeSantis, wherever he was thinking a lot about an important election coming up in 2024 so that he can make America Florida. That's because the Grim Reaper of Florida chooses political ambition over leadership during a crisis. This is who he is. And tonight, he's our absolute worst. And when we come back, the return of Ron DeSantis, including an absurd statement from his Surgeon General. Stay with us.
I think that particularly given the clinical profile so far of Omicron, there's not justifiable to let fear overwhelm you. You can't let any type of hysteria undercut the normal functioning of society.
Those are the comforting words of the Florida governor who, until New Year's Eve, had been missing from public view since December 17th, with the exception of a December 19 Fox News interview. While Florida was facing its biggest surge in COVID cases yet, with average daily infections exploding by more than 2,000% since December 6th, bringing with it an astronomical increase in demand for testing. Responding to his absence today, DeSantis made a snide remark about President Biden spending some time recently at the beach in Delaware. And his press secretary noted that December 30 and 31st were holidays for state employees, and that DeSantis would be spending time with his wife, who is fighting breast cancer. Now, I commend the governor for that. Breast cancer is a true evil menace. I lost my own mother to it, and I pray for the Florida First Lady's speedy recovery. But no one on his team has yet answered why the governor was invisible to the public for 2 full weeks in December before that, when COVID was spiking in Florida and mayors were pleading for help. Instead of addressing any of those questions, he and his immunocompromised wife rang in the new year at a packed Christian concert in Miami, touting the state's alleged freedom. Joining me now is Daniel Uhlfelder, Florida-based attorney and chairman of the Remove Ron PAC, and Dr. Bernard Ashby, a Miami vascular cardiologist and Florida state lead for the Committee to Protect Healthcare. Thank you both for being here. And Dr. Ashby, I texted you this question earlier because when I saw the press conference by the governor, the specific comments that he made about his wife being with him 2 days after apparently she'd had chemotherapy, which he talks about her having chemotherapy, and the state said she'd had chemotherapy on the 29th. And then 2 days later, she was at this big event. I don't know if we have VO of it, but it's in Miami. It's lots and lots and lots of people, unmasked, all near her. And he had also gone to another public event in Miami in Kendall before that. Is that wise?
Well, what's going on? Of course, it's not a good idea. I mean, I'm sure her oncologists were petrified when they seen her at an outdoor event or an event with multiple people right after chemotherapy. So that is exactly what you don't want to do. And so I know we're going to get into it, but I've always said from day one that DeSantis, a.k.a. Jim Hansen, and Dapo, a.k.a. the Muppet Baby, are incredibly irresponsible and reckless. And what's happening right now during the unprecedented surge that we're seeing is that both of them are derelict from duty, and they are completely crickets when it comes to anything related to mitigating this pandemic, particularly when it comes to testing. And so I don't know if you know this, but back in May, they shut down all the state-run testing sites. And now Floridians are having to wait hours just to get a test result or get a test done, and then wait days to get the result after that, which, again, is a fundamental dereliction of duty. And rather than address that issue, they're saying that testing is unnecessary now, which couldn't be further from the truth.
Yeah, let me very quickly play Dr. Ladapo, who is the Surgeon General, Joseph Ladapo, saying that and actually making it sound like testing is just some sort of psychological, tick. Here it is.
We're going to be working to unwind the sort of testing psychology that our federal leadership has managed to, unfortunately, get most of the country in over the last 2 years. We need to unwind this testing sort of planning and living one's life around testing. Without it, we're going to be sort of stuck in the same cycle.
And Dr. Ashby, he's sort of reflecting Marco Rubio, who tweeted record numbers testing positive for a sore throat isn't a crisis, sort of minimizing COVID, and people in the hospital for car accidents testing positive isn't a surge. The real crisis is irrational hysteria that has people waiting hours for tests, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and missing work for 10 days. It seems to me that based on what you've seen, this governor genuinely believes in sort of survival of the fittest herd immunity, right? Let everybody get COVID, the strong will survive. And, we'll vaccinate the elderly and the rich.
I mean, clearly. I mean, from day one, when they were listening to folks by the likes of Scott Atlas, it's clear that they're pursuing a herd immunity strategy. And Rubio, frankly, needs to shut his mouth because he has no business talking about public health. And this is something that is a life and death for particularly immunocompromised and vulnerable patients. Yeah. And he is not helpful whatsoever.
Let me go to you, Daniel. Thank you for being here and welcome to the show. Have you been able to determine, because I know you've been tweeting about this and following it, have you been able to determine what happened to Ron DeSantis for those 2 weeks when mayors were saying, where is Ron DeSantis? We need testing, we need help.
Well, the thing about Ron DeSantis is that he wakes up in the morning with makeup because he's always ready to be on TV or a press conference. So it was highly unusual for him to go 17 days without a press conference. And so what we believe is that he takes these victory laps all the time. And he would put himself in a box, and he couldn't deal with it because there was no explanation. And the cases were exploding, and he decided to just sit back and do nothing. And Florida has a horrific experience with COVID. We have had, in terms of in 2021, Florida has had over 40,000 reported deaths. We are fourth in the country in death rates since the vaccines have been made available to all adults. The cases are skyrocketing, and the governor went MIA. I mean, we looked from early November till December 17th when he did not appear. He had about 17 press conferences. Some of them were twice a day, and he was on Fox News, and then he went MIA. And we believe that he has does this repeatedly. When things are going well, he's out there, and he thinks they're going well, all these fake victory laps. But we at Remove Ron have been following him and trying to show what it really is going on. And he just was absent. And that was just in the cases. And today he appeared with the Surgeon General with excuses, really blaming the president with this theory of let's unwind testing. Yeah. It is Orwellian to suggest that we're going to deal with these huge lines of tests. We've got people waiting hours all over the state, and we're just going to unwind it. We don't need to unwind testing. We need to remove Ron DeSantis.
It seems that his opponents have a pretty strong case for that. Daniel Uhlfelder, Dr. Bernard Ashby. Wish we had more time. Thank you both very much. That is